Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. I'm your happy healer lover. Today we're going to be having a movie review, but more than that, we're going to be covering This is AmericanMantics. So we'll be covering the AmericanMantics view as to the world, but also we'll be covering exactly what is the state of our people. Welcome to the program. Today's date is Monday, August 16th. The time now is 10:53 p.m. Normally we come to you at 7 p.m. religiously for this program. However, today was just a bit different. I was being queued up in the Afghanistan situation. So after this program is over, I'm going to come back on again for another probably about 15 or 20 minutes and just speak on the Afghan situation. I think it's really important, and we're going to go over a few things on that at that time. Right now, what I want to focus on is this movie, UnHinged, and exactly what I got out of it. And before that, I just watched this movie over the weekend, and I felt like it really touched into something true about our society and the dangers that really are represented in that situation. So the movie really delves in that. And before I even get into the actual review, I would like to, and you could see here, I have some pictures that are set for you, and I would like for you to actually take a look at this, because this is an actual review from somebody, and I'll read it to you, and you could watch the pictures along with that actual type that I have for you. But again, this is the movie UnHinged, and this is exactly the review that was given by somebody who watched it. And so let me start with her review, because I think that is really helpful in our approach today. And I think if you hear what she had to say about this movie, I think you'll understand the deep nature of this movie and what it means to people that are watching it. So the thing to note is this is a woman who is actually, I'll be talking about and reading what she had wrote. And so just keep that in mind, that this is a woman, because it is, women deal with it a little bit harder, and we have to recognize that the things they go through when it comes to domestic violence, and men go through it too. So here's what she said. I found this movie very unsettling and disturbingly frightening. Due to the horrific and sudden extreme violence within 15 minutes of this, I had to shut it off, she said. As a woman with domestic violence abuse in my past, I had a very real sudden disturbed PTSD attack that left me shaking and crying within 15 minutes of watching this small section of the movie, she said. And she said she waited a very long time to be able to watch this movie for it to hit her in her most inner core. And I'm just going to read it as she wrote it. I will not be able to watch another movie with this actor in it for a very long time, is what she had said. This is my opinion entirely, but my husband was just as disturbed. It may be a bit unfair in that I couldn't and did not dare to finish this thriller due to the fact that the people in our world as a whole has so much freedom to express whatever they choose to do or say or feel or react to. I suggest, if you choose to watch this piece, prepare to feel how much less in control we really are. Anyone with a gentle, loving, caring soul should really not watch this movie, because it will affect you just as it affected me. Young children and young adults should stay clear away from this movie. and anything like it. Prepare yourself for more fear to come when you walk out your front door. We are all feeling a little stir crazy, and I think to go for a drive to clear our heads can serve well. Well, I can only say if you've been flipped off at or screamed or cut off in front of you while daydreaming, driving, consider yourself fortunate. And that's, again, I did not watch the entirety of this movie, and so take it with a huge grain of salt. I can only hope that some kind of peaceful force stopped the roll of this movie after I turned it off after 15 minutes. This is everything she's been saying. And 15 minutes, and this is it was made to show what a real mess we've become, she feels. And I certainly agree with that. And that we've lost our ability to be kind and sensible when it comes to strangers and our own family at times. Road rage, and even being at home for the last 10 months within close quarters and possible can drive us to become unhinged, like Russel Crow's character. Please swallow the pride and take a calm road trip to the beach and decompress all that vented up pressure. Please. I would really hate to be the person that ticked off an unhinged road rager such as Mr. Crow's character on my way to my doctor visit next week. My final words to all of us in these tense times: slow down, love your family and friends, be kind to others. You never know their level of pain and disappointment that they're possibly going through. And we're all here on this earth for such a short time, and all together we can send our best intentions and love to whoever's eyes we come in contact with. My hopes and prayers for us all are to be more aware of the people around us. The person crossing the street, walk as much as we do on their minds. The greatest gift of all is love. Share it. Give it away daily. We all need love to build our lives, and this is her feeling this way. You could see it. And that 4-letter word has and can still move mountains, which is how she ended that. And I just want to say the extreme nature of her own dealing with that, watching this movie and how it responded, how her feeling, how she realized this world. It's so becoming something we didn't bargain for, and she recognized that and the way that it affected her. So what I wanted to get into now is another part of this where my review of this movie that I watched begins. And so I'll continue to show you these pictures, and I'll just tell you what's going on. And so people are depressed and saddened, and they're made to feel left out. And they're so easily saddened and completely left out. I have mentioned them on AmericanMantics. They come in all forms, and it's because of the world of greedhell that the situation has gotten out of hand. It's really gotten completely out of control. Really has. And I know I've seen and felt it in my comings and goings. First, I can remember when people were giving you that disapproving glance when you even try to speak about religion or politics, for example. Now they seem to offer that same disapproving look if you try to talk about anything at all. Things are getting worse, folks, and no one wants to discuss what is most crucial to getting to the core answer of all of our problems. And I think they're convinced they have to wait until after their death to live the good life. Not so true. And that is one funny spirit I couldn't help but think, given we've all got that spirit of amnesia for wherever we come from before here. But clearly this is the part of us that's the observer to life. I guess that the spirit didn't get the rules on the bodies they received, right? Wish that there was more appetite for love as there is for hate. And hate sells, so people keep fanning those flames and hurting America. And they get more friends, views, and likes when they do that. I'm doing my best to correct this situation as much as one little happy healer lover heart can love. After all, we should all be so much more humble. No one knows everything the way they act. It all seems so shameful to me. I want to see how humble and loving, and I want to see unity win. Which brings me to this movie. And I watched it this weekend, and it's called UnHinged, and it can happen to you. Which is a movie that stars Russel Crow. It's a man who went through a divorce and lost everything. He was so distraught that he was taken and driven to the point of double homicide on his wife, her new boyfriend, and burned up their home. After this, he was in a weird post-murderous trance as he made the news and was considered dangerous. And in the meantime, his life is over, and he's unable to cope with life itself at this point. About this time, a lady who herself is in the middle of a divorce, and she and her son were running late on their way to drop off her son at school. During their drive, they get caught behind this raging murderer who's just at adrift, sitting at a red light. After sitting behind this unhinged man for some time, the light was preparing to turn red again. And obviously now this mother was becoming a bit impatient and unable to deal with it any longer at this point. She laid on her horn for a solid few seconds. As she sped around him, she did the normal road rage that we see all the time on our streets. A moment later, he pulled up alongside of her at the next light, and beyond the last light where she expressed her anger at the previous light. And he motions to her son after pulling along the right side of her car in the right lane, while she sat in the left lane. This deranged man rolled his window down and asked her son, who was on the passenger side, to roll down his window. At this time, the man entered a conversational tone with the child about the mother's actions and how she had no idea what kind of day he had been having. At this point, neither the mother nor the son had any idea he was the man who had killed his wife. He was just another motorist who was frustrated and late. So she decided to take it out on him at that previous red light. He said he was sorry for his having a very bad day and that she should also apologize, and the mother responded after the man kept pushing the issue, and instead of apologizing to this man who felt the world was becoming too much and too mean, and she confirmed to him that belief. You could see in the moment, unaware of the danger she was in, that she snapped at him again, insisting that he was at fault and she was not going to apologize. Again, he apologized for his part in it and asked that she only say sorry for the way she responded initially at the first red light when she laid on that horn, because he was in her way. He gave her son a lecture about how the horn should be used, and just a short, nice two-tone just to let everybody know your presence rather than being rude and not laying on the horn. A prolonged laying on it means it's a clear misuse of the horn. In a world where you don't know what kind of day another person is having, and that instead it's more reasonable to be using a more nice tone, as he explained it to be, rather than laying on that horn, as his mother had done. And that if she didn't apologize, he would make sure that she pays dearly for that mistake. At this point, her son was insisting, "Mom, tell the man you're sorry." And he could tell how serious this man was becoming, despite using pleasant words. Her son clearly wanted this encounter to end safely and felt they were in danger by this man. In one last fit of this mother's own rage, with her son in the back seat, told this man that she wasn't to blame, and she drove off. And this sets the pace for the rest of the movie, where this man first chased this road-raged woman and her son, slamming on the brakes in front of them, nearly causing an accident, and then followed her to a convenience store and grabbed her cell phone as she was inside the convenience store. When he did, he was able to access her entire family's friends list. All friends and family, and he is obviously nobody's fool, and pushed to a level beyond the edge of his breaking point, deranged and angry, wanting revenge against society for ruining his life, and that's why he was unhinged. And now he had her loved ones in his hands with nothing to lose, and his goal before passing this earth was to teach her a lesson that she would never forget. You can find this film on Amazon Prime Movies, and it has Russel Crow in it, and it's available for viewing as we speak. Though viewers be warned, I've read some reviews on this movie that plenty state a viewer was only able to watch it for 15 minutes, and that's the one that I just told you about. And some women weren't able to watch it at all because they were victims of domestic abuse, and it brought up bouts of PTSD that now keeps them from watching any Russell Crowe movies at all. And that's for the foreseeable future. This is how prevalent this is in our society and in the open air and within our own lives, and going on for so many years. I know when my poor mother had to endure drunken beatings from my father and my brothers and my eldest brother too, it showed us that life was dangerous and that the worst could happen to us, anyone. My father did some terrible things to us children in his fit of rage. My eldest brother, who died this year, had to put up with a great deal of it, as we all had to. We learned about fear as children and dealt with fear. I think to a large degree, we all deal with fear. We learn from our fears, and we learn what motivates our actions when we're fearful, and how we react when we're scared, are usually in ways we wish we never had to react, but usually in ways that ensure our survival, despite whatever threat may exist. My mother would drive us to the Women and Children's Institute on days where she thought my father was out drinking. Sometimes we would go to hotels. Other times we would sleep inside her station wagon. In any event, she was keeping us and herself safe from his demons. We all loved my father and forgive him, because he was our dad and loved us so much. But he had demons that he dealt with that led to a very hard life, even for my father, as later in our lives my father kept him out of the house. She got to the point where she couldn't be around him anymore. Now that we were older and the pain that she had gone through with him, we always wanted him to stay together, my mother and father, because my father would be there for my mother, and so we thought that would be best. But it turned out it never ended up that way for us. We lost my dad in 1998 from a freak accident when a construction accident left him paralyzed. I was 18 at the time. He died during that time, and that was sad. My mother died in 2012 and wasn't as healthy as my father. And I'm really sad I have no parents, and I just know how important it is to value one another. That is why I choose to value you so much, because I know how feeling alone feels to be. And I had to get so close to God to hang on to life after my addictions and other problems in this world of greedhell dwelt upon me and my family during this life. Outside of the 7-year stint where I was very successful, it was a hard knocks life, and I watched my family go through trials and tribulations and did my best to be there for them in times of my own success. And we all started growing fast from 25 to 42. It just happened so fast as I remember it, spending most of those years doing business. And of course, from 29 pages till today, I've been studying about things that I have learned and excelled at. And one thing that I needed was my passion to stick with me. And I noticed in older people that they would become less hopeful. I didn't want to be that kind of person. I didn't want that for myself. So I studied the meaning of life, the nature of life, and its purpose and our reason for being alive. Essentially, I decided to focus on more humane tasks and I gave up business. While I still did business to survive, I was mostly focused on learning and becoming more capable and understanding in many disciplines, working to build a youthful proficiency so that I can use it to great effect in my future and later in life. I wasn't always for sure what yet. I suppose I believed in my own greatness, my own ability to have some useful effect in the outcome. I clearly knew was so wrong for people, but didn't know what was right. How could we navigate ourselves through such a world and actually win? Not like this death hell we see where some win and some die. Wouldn't God put us in a fair and just world, I thought. And it was so heavy on my heart thinking about that. It had entire implications of my future faith. And that's what the stake of this question that I mulled over for about 7 years at this time, until I knew what I knew was true. I remember going through the fear and thinking that the end of the world was imminent during the 2001 terrorist attacks, then the 2008 financial crisis, and after that and through that time, many life-changing calamities such as hurricanes, tsunamis, and cities having floods and geological scares that made everyone question our impact on this planet's geological natural ebbs and flows, that our impact may be our own doing. We know that Yellowstone is already due to erupt when it happens, and it's going to be a large killer. Will people say that they had no way of knowing? I know one thing. Everything points to becoming more powerful, but not for the corrupt. That we don't have answers to life's big questions, but we must. It's their fault. I felt so hopeless ultimately in the knowledge of how insanely large our problems were, that we need to overcome our own hell. In fact, it's that very deductive reasoning that led so many people away from God and from faith altogether. Hate and hell was never a good idea, and always a symptom to a much larger problem. The evil problem, the devilish problem, how insanely unjust it would be of God to put us in such a world where we couldn't overcome our hell. That's why most adults live with no hope, while children do have so much hope. And we call children innocent. And it's actually innocent to be hopeful and loving. To know about this problem and do nothing. And those kids, the moment they grow up, they see this truth. They now know that hopeless conditions exist and that we're destined to failure. A general tone falls over those people, folks. It's hard to stay positive on the outside, and they do. But the fear it's having on our lives, where we wish to have somewhat of a good life in a world we ultimately give up to Satan's distrustful and hateful views of people, and we should love to seek and understand these folks, that unless we tried as hard as we could never accept defeat, greedhell's defeat that would have us do, the things it would have us do, and people couldn't understand why God made it stacked against us in this life. But I don't see that at all. I see an entire solar system at our disposal and increasing our abilities and knowledge over time. In that I see so much to do and become. I know we're barely getting started at that, and if we fail now, then humanity may fail for all time to come. That's literally the place where my brothers and sisters stand. Should we fail now, we fail for all time. For a long and sustained exponential human progress are like links in a chain, like balancing on a ledge. Should you lose your balance, you won't survive what happens next. Same is true for human progress. Should you fail to continue progressing, life won't be able to sustain the population growth without advancing all the same. Since hope gives us faith to follow through, we are thus capable of anything. But if hope gives faith a way forward, then what gives us hope? Love and seeing the world in its truthful form so that we can do something about it. It's love that binds us and unites us and makes us so much more powerful to attain our own rightful world that's ever progressing, has people surviving, living happy, hopeful lives, can give rise to a world of value. People have value. When I was younger, I always believed that, as do all young people. It's only until we become older and somehow get it wrong. The result of a painful world lived by a people who knew they should have had it better. And why would they be shown this prize of what life could and should be, but live the way it is in dark and miserable times? People end up in real depression over that. I've seen all of my family go through it. There is so much more hope to be had than that. I mean, I've always been a very helpful person, but after my star was fading out because of the drug addiction doctors put me on, had me dealing with the pain of life as well as pains and aches I had to deal with. We should never tolerate so many hurting and dying people when we can do better. We owe it to ourselves to become better, grow stronger, and become the first super consumers so that we can show how we can both take care of ourselves and flourish in higher care, not lower care. And all because we can. Our ability and progress allow for it. Because people have value and purpose, we do it. We raise the hope in people when we do stuff like that, which is what I was just describing, is a way out of this mess. We explain every process and way and means AmericanMantics has after having gone through all of these other life processes that God uses for us to first see the problem and then convey it. And for you to receive it as natural and undeniable truth you have also witnessed and since have already seen to be true yourself. It's that gift of faith. When people are angry, mad, and hopeless, and clearly lack hope, and faithless people will take us off the bridge, folks. That's why I work, and that's why our work is so important. That as humans, our story of progress and how it's like the links in a chain, and that one state should be made, or that one link, should it break, the whole chain fails. It's not that we succeed because we're perfect. Of course, we succeed that when we're in God's love and we can summon the care sufficient to deal with all life's problems and to never give up until we get it right. That people are taken care of and that human value is respected in our society. And that's what each person needs to commit to for the people that they love. As they become more hopeful that other ways are more than possible. It's God's way. We are empowered with love. And it's indeed waiting on us to take our rightful spot and or complete with God's love and unity and actionable force working for our better world for us all. That people matter. They have purpose and value and a sacred reason for living. As they learn to love all people, this is the world that they want to be in and grow up in. It's a world they first started knowing out when they watched the cartoon images of our hope-filled childhoods, our innocent times. It's not even that foreign to us, the ideals that we understand clearly, because they're ideals that are written on our hearts. Our dreams and hopes tell us what is right and what is ideal. And what is ideal is what is right for people who matter. That is God speaking to us. Our instinctive knowledge is meant to take us so much further than it does. But it's always our gift of free will that makes life worth living. But it also makes worth hard to live. And that's our challenge. Though love is our power because it's the care force. But many lose their hopes and dreams and instead go back to doing something less than their remarkable purpose in this lifetime, which they understand and accept their own value first, and then everyone else's, and then to do their part to provide a better lives for people who matter. And in the world where it's not tolerated of people who matter, it helps when our facts match our ideals. And today, people don't matter. And we know that, based on the way people are left to die in our care and archaic ways. So much technical ability, and yet so little of that human technical ability goes to helping people who are suffering with sickness, all because we don't value them enough. Love is the force that creates new value indeed. It's how we afford to take on such monumental tasks. Greedhell will never compete, and all is lost in a world of making human long and sustained progress we seem destined to fail, no matter how hard we try, because we fail to use the most amazing gift God gave us, our love, the unity force. Our hell was no less destined in 2001 than it is today, just for different reasons, and on the same trajectory. So when I speak of evil, it's a force that has kept the threat of death looming over us all, as it robs the lives of so many in a world becoming increasingly hateful, and making humanity less special. I too was lost in my life and always increasingly losing hope, even when I had lots of money. A drug addiction to go with it that threw me off my own personal gains, as I loved all those around me, but they were doing without, and my drug addiction was a gift from my greedy doctor, and that we accept this kind of stuff, but we shouldn't. I suffered in every possible way, and until I was finally certain of the answers that gave me the will and drive to live, that I realized that there is hope. That we've reached very low lows where many others have died before me, and I almost died. And I've learned through so much hardship, and it took for losing millions of dollars, and it was a depression manifested by happy healer lover in the making. I remember giving away thousands of dollars to people who simply needed help, and I wanted to help on my own way out. I was increasingly becoming broke as I gave away a fortune that I've built from my own business. I was depressed. After I was broke, I sold my plane and gave that away too. And what I didn't give away, I know that greedhell kept trying to get more. That was a mess, and it was the result of greedhell on people in this world. And I'm what happens to people when the world's evil's out to destroy them. I was also my father's creation. I was my parents' cherished and innocent child. I was my brother's and sister's sibling. I was the best I could be to as many as I could be. I was a child. I was lost. I was a drug addict. This world didn't understand me. I was a lover then and always in this life, as we all are. But I was losing my will to survive in a world of greedhell where so many have come before me. And I've seen so many broken hearts and lost dreams because love didn't value their hope either. The only unity we ever get to see is from greed's fear and powers keeping us in line and fearful, driving us to do even worse against our own. Though, that's all a cancer on what we were meant to be and must be if we're to live our purpose in this life. And if any dreams come true, all dreams are to come true. That is God's way. Because what I learned when I started making it is that making it in greedhell is not making it at all. It's having it while others suffer. It's knowing we can do and have and be so much better, but then doing better comes at the expense of my own well-being. That is an inherent flaw of greedhell because of limited opportunity, scarcity, and lack of growing in sufficient ways while not getting the rightful value that it's up to us to give to our own kind and use our free will to make it happen, but also makes life worth living. By making that choice, we prove God's powers to be more capable than the evil could ever hope to be. After all, the devil wins when we're weaker and dying. That's the point. It's when I realized these truths that I put so much more together with science and even seeing miracles that I've witnessed that I felt compelled to show another way and to teach about this other way. I was becoming the happy healer I am today. It was all a transition for me. More and more becoming and doing the things I knew was right out of integrity for humanity that I loved so much. I knew that it could be so much better. It was never unfair what God had done to us. He put us in a world where we were given both choice and free will and the love to overcome our own greedy nature. Or the devil within that also persists to have us go right off that cliff. It's wrong. And it's beatable. It's governing everything, including love. But it should be the other way around. That is when I realized we lived in greedhell, the upside-down world that does not know how to value human beings. It wasn't the right direction for a life worth living. And I began to notice that there were too many people dying. That is what I have learned. Living in lots of pain and watching lots of death. My dad was a good man. We all knew he had two sides, however. And when he drank, that other side came out. And he was a bitter man in so many ways, obviously. That made him act in ways that I think all people can relate to. I feel this movie emulates life in a very real way. We know the problems that exist. And we all know they tend to go on settled in that they will only continue to get worse. And that our only solution for dealing with these big problems requires qualities our people refuse to have right now. And that is why it seems we are destined for greedhell's outcome. And the country that came together to show our ability to live and grow and love together can be successful on this earth. Devils are out to see to that never happens. And what we have here is their winning. So viewers' discretion is advised in this film, Unhinged. But realize that if you watch it, what you're watching is based on our own true story. I recommend it for real-life consequential lessons to actions we take in our daily lives. Case in point, that we don't just live better in a world of love, but that it's the only thing that can save us from our own selves. But that is also where the hope comes from. We're so capable of doing this because God gave us the one tool that can get it done. His love. This is most certainly our art here, imitating real life. And it shows real similarities. Needless to say, this murderous man came out of his trance at this moment and began a new spree that was focused on destroying this woman's life for having been rude to him and unwilling to say sorry. Americans who are so talented and capable, but instead of being able to work their talent, are instead using their talent for revenge and hostility towards other Americans. The writing has long since been on the wall for the outcomes of such acts. War is a never-ending cycle of greed and scarcity, death planned for human beings. And no one really does anything about it, because we live in a system of greedhell, and it's a bad system. And it's the death class is the one that these people are in, and those are the lovers that aren't so capable of doing greed so well. They're the ones doing the dying first, and then it comes for everyone else too. Greedhell never stops, and it's because the lovers are builders and so on. Thankfully, many of these types are still alive, these lovers, but many are still dying, and all are meant to be this type. And all were this type as children, lovers, builders, just lovers, only to lose their innocence because they lost their love. They accepted that they would have to be greedy to be anything. And trust me, I know. I've seen how businesses run in America, and we're among the best at it in the world. Greed is everywhere, and corruption looms large. We know this. To go anywhere in greed hell, one must be cold and greedy to a fault. The more greedy, the more successful. And that's how success is built in greed hell. Not by offering value to people who have purpose and value. And on some level, to go with it is to support it. That is greed hell's checkmate plan on the people. But you see, AmericanMantics is a checkmate plan on greed hell. I promise you that. Allow your heart's truth to guide you in this message too, and in all messages. Where do you think this will lead to? Did you really think that there would be absolutely no consequences or prices to pay for millions of Americans becoming bitter, hateful, and depressed? That division and loneliness is setting in. That heart is filled with hateful anger rather than loving hope. We're not reaching out and helping people. This didn't happen overnight. And how will it end? Once it's all said and done, we already see in the smaller consequential ways we pay, which are still large and unsettling. AmericanMantics is a growing and evolving program dedicated to getting this system of AmericanMantics out and growing our community of lovers ample enough to fix this problem. That's the goal of AmericanMantics. To be the romantic idea that believing in love itself is the right answer, together with honest truth, so as to see the problem accurately and have the care sufficient to fix it for one another, to do right by one another. That's so important, and that's exactly what all of this is about. We know that, and we understand the problems and how they've evolved to this point. What I think we have to start recognizing is how many of the bad things that are happening, that we all have a part in that by accepting greed hell, by not doing our part. Now, I have another video that I want to bring to your attention here, and I think this will help you understand what I mean. Do you remember back in Aurora when, during the showing of Batman, there was a shooter? Do you remember that guy? He shot up the theater. Well, before this guy shot up the theater, he asked for help. There was no help for him. Outside of the theater, he called in for help. And he's clearly mentally problematic. And that's just to start. He is so devilish, the evil ran right through him. But yet there was a part of him that reached out. Well, let's hear in his words.
Yeah, I put my music on my headphones, on my wireless headphones.
Then what happened?
Then an employee came out to the dumpster and threw something away, but I had the tinted windows and the sun shade up, so they didn't see me. But I heard them. But I heard them.
You heard them come out?
Yeah.
What did you think about when they came out?
If they're going to interrupt the process or not. But they didn't. They just went back inside the theater after they threw the trash away.
If they had somehow interrupted the process, what would have happened?
I had a handgun in my passenger door side that I could have used.
Okay. Were you prepared to do that if necessary?
Yeah.
At what point did you call the behavioral health hotline of some kind?
Like halfway through gearing up.
From the car?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was something that happened in the car. If if you can, I'd like to pretty much hear everything. I want to hear the whole
I
story.
called him, but I couldn't hear anybody on the other line.
What led you to make that call?
Just one last chance to see if I should turn back or not.
As far as you know, your reception was fine in the middle of town.
Right.
And you didn't hear any answer, electronic or personal or otherwise, on the other end?
No.
And you said 9 seconds. Did you kind of count them off, or did you show on the phone how long it was?
It said like call ended after 9 seconds.
I'm sorry?
It said call ended after 9 seconds.
Do you remember what you thought or felt or when nobody answered?
Then shortly after, I thought the FBI would stop me.
Walk me through. You go in through the outer door, then what happens, and what do you see, what do you hear, what do you smell?
First, I opened the tear gas canister while I was still outside the door, and it made a hissing sound. And then I went inside and tossed it over on the right side of the theater.
How did it feel to be really doing it?
Then it was autopilot.
Walk me through from there.
Then I raised the shotgun and saw that people were getting up in like the back left corner. So I like shot up that direction, and then I don't remember any of the other shots of the shotgun.
Any idea why those people were getting up in the back left corner?
Well, they could see me all decked out with my guns and stuff.
So you shot in that direction. Do you know whether you hit anything?
I heard a scream.
You heard a
So,
scream?
yeah.
You shot how many times toward the folks in the upper end?
I think the shotgun.
Like I said, pure evil. That's what these folks are dealing with. That's what we are all dealing with. That's what the world of greedhell is. Lazy in the ways it should be activated. Helping our quest, being successful in this world where so much is at stake, where lives are at stake, where people are at stake. We must do our very best, where we will never get the lives that we deserve. And that's what Happy Healing and AmericanMantics is designed to do. I know that should we do this together, that we will live a life truly that lives up to our value and our destiny ordained by our Creator, who did not put us in a world that was ultimately unfair. It was made more than fair by giving us both our free will and a way forward in love. And that love for us is our unity force. But that greed demands to take our free will away from us, leaving us less freedom than ever before in our lives, and keeping us in a unity that we couldn't find in love, unified in our hell, unified in our prison, unified in our misery, and in our death. Folks, this is AmericanMantics. Normally, we are at 7 p.m. nightly. I've been looking at that closely because I want to be your best happy healer lover, showing up to you on time as we have agreed upon. So many people are used to our 7 p.m. showing. I'm seriously considering pushing that back to 9 p.m. during the summer here in Florida because of how hot it gets during that hour, and I want to be my very best to you. So folks, look for more on the new time frame for AmericanMantics moving forward, whether we do change at 9 p.m. or whether that time will remain at 7, or whether we might go to somewhere in between like 8. Look for that, because I do suspect we will have a change, because I want to bring you the best that AmericanMantics can be. This progress is the most important effort and progress that I have ever worked on in my entire life, despite having made millions and doing wonderful things, learning. None of that matters, because this is what matters most. It's what is killing my family. It's what's killing your family. We have to get it right. I love you. I'm your brother. I'm your happy healer lover, and I care about our outcome together. I care about you. Care is a natural thing to do. I love you. We'll see you soon on Wednesday on AmericanMantics, and look forward to that new time. God bless you. See you soon.